How's it going, everyone? This is Mitchell Mander here, and welcome to another review of Pokemon Journeys. Today we're going to be covering episode 40, which involves Ash and Go teaming up with some unexpected helpers to face off against Zapdos. And the question is, was Go successful in catching this legendary Pokemon? Well, before we get into that and get into the episode review, I just want to say if you like this type of content and you're new to the channel, be sure to like and subscribe as I cover the Pokemon Journey series on a weekly basis or whenever the episodes come out. Anyways, let's get on to that review, shall we? The episode begins with Ash and Go. It looks like they're making some scones. But anyways, they're having some fun. About ready to have some good old scones. And Koharu's over here like, yeah, I don't know why you guys are so excited about this. There's nothing really to get excited about. But then, suddenly it stops working. Turns out they're having some power issues at the Sakuragi Labs. That's when the professor himself comes outside and basically tells the boys, hey, yeah, this is a sign that there's a legendary Pokemon near. And Go comes to the conclusion pretty quickly that it's actually the legendary Pokemon Zapdos due to what's going on with the power going out and this kid being super knowledgeable of Pokemon, obviously. So you put two and two together and realize that Zapdos must be near. So the two boys head off into Vermilion City and they see a storm cloud forming. And the two boys get into a bit of a fight, so Ash obviously wants to battle Zapdos, and Go wants to capture Zapdos. So they get into a bit of an argument, and then the storm clouds go away. Seems like Zapdos has left the scene. Probably he's fed up with these two fighting. Anyways, Ash and Go, they head back to the city. They're disappointed. And here, this part was kind of interesting because Go brings up the concept of the chicken, what came first, the chicken or the egg. But in this case, the chicken is the Pokemon. And of course, Ash is over here is like, yeah, I totally know what you're talking about, Go. I've heard of this story, and I know exactly what you're talking about. But the duo eventually run into Koharu. And the interesting thing here is that the professor asks them, says like, oh, there's a storm cloud forming at the pier again. You guys head out to investigate. And Go, he's thinking back to the Pokemon in the egg, which came first. And he has a gut instinct and actually heads the opposite way that they're supposed to go. And the interesting thing here is that Koharu is over here is like, gut feeling. Go is actually starting to seem more and more like, Ash these days. Which is pretty true. Considering that the two boys have been hanging out a lot lately, so Ash has been rubbing off on Go, and it's been kind of a positive thing for Go. So the two boys end up heading off to the power plant, which actually powers the Sakuragi Labs. Go put this, two and two together and realize that Zapdos must be, re-energizing itself or doing something to gather electricity, and figures that it must be at the power plant. Seems like his intuition is right, but guess who else just so happens to be there? Good old Team Rocket. Seems like they were going to make that power plant a second base for Team Rocket, but yeah, that wasn't going to happen considering what's going on. But they suddenly hear a cry, and it's, of course, Zapdos, which freaks them all out. They're like, oh my gosh, it actually is here! But Ash and Go to battle Zapdos, and Team Rocket get their gotcha machine, because we all totally love the gotcha machine. They get it so that they can help battle, or at least try to capture Zapdos. Jesse ends up getting a ride on, but James over here gets a Stunkfish. And yeah, it seems like both of them are pretty useless, as Rhyhorn is just attacking the wall and not really even attempting to hit Zapdos. And Stunkfish over here, tries using Water Gun, which I don't know why James thought that was a good idea in the first place, since water is not, effective against electricity. But it doesn't even reach Zapdos, so seems like Team Rocket are a bit useless. But Ash and Go are struggling over here. Team Rocket, you gotta pick it up. They can't face off against this legendary Pokemon on their own. Pikachu and Reboot are struggling over here, so the two, or I guess Ash and Go and Team Rocket decide to join forces, and they start battling together. And I like the moment where Pikachu was surfing on Stunkfish, which was pretty cool. But despite them teaming up, unfortunately they are unable to land a hit on Zapdos, which is starting to get away. It flies out of the power plant and goes onto the roof. And they all go up to head up to the roof, but for some reason Team Rocket's like, yeah, we're actually here to capture Pikachu, and this is our opportunity to do so because Pikachu has been weakened by its battle with Zapdos. So, you go on, you go on and get that legendary Pokemon, which, the legendary Pokemon that's totally was, taking Pikachu out. We're just going to focus on getting Pikachu now instead of, going up against this legendary Pokemon. So, see you, Go. So at this point, Go is pretty much left alone to face off against Zapdos as Ash is busy dealing with Team Rocket. So, for this portion of the battle, Go decides, play a little smart and uses Flygon, which he captured a few episodes ago, and have Reboot ride on it so that it can get, close up for a direct hit. Pretty clever strategy. But in this part of the battle, Flygon manages to hit Zapdos with a Dragon Breath, and Go immediately goes for the capture with a regular Pokeball. Go, a few things. First off, you shouldn't bring regular Pokeballs to a legendary raid or, to try and catch a legendary Pokemon. You should have brought some Ultra Balls. Have you not played Pokemon Go? Then again, in Pokemon Go, you use Premier Balls for the legendary raids, but that's besides the fact. Number 2, you only hit Zapdos once, and it didn't seem like it phased it very much. Probably should do a little bit more damage than that, bud. But anyways, during this part of the battle, after Zapdos basically breaks out of the Pokeball, Go is beginning to lose faith. He's seemingly in an impossible situation. He doesn't know what to do. And that's when Ash blasts Team Rocket off. You see, Pikachu's electricity was running out, as it used it quite a bit earlier in its battle with Zapdos. So Team Rocket were at this point like, yeah, you can't use electricity anymore and you run out. You're pretty much out of options, Ash. We gotcha. And Ash over here is like, yeah, it's not over, so he blasts Team Rocket off. So Ash, shows up, and he looks over to Go, and he basically tells him to keep going. And that basically gives Go the motivation to keep going. And the battle continues, and, Reboot almost gets taken out. He gets hit a couple of times by Zapdos and manages to tank a few of them. But this last one does a lot of damage, and seemingly Reboot's down for the count. And once again, Go is losing faith. But then he looks to Reboot, and Reboot's getting back up, and both of them are not ready to quit, so they go back at it again. And I actually really like this part. So Flygon uses Draco Meteor, and while Zapdos is basically, taking out the attack, Reboot, in secret, starts jumping on what remains of the Draco Meteor, catching Zapdos by complete surprise, and gets right up close to it, and delivers a Blaze Kick right, point blank, at Zapdos and basically takes it down and seemingly defeats Zapdos. And that's when, again, Reboot looks over to Go. He's like, yeah, don't worry about me. You got a job to do. So Go uses the Pokeball, and it seems like Go actually caught Zapdos. It seems like it actually happened. But at the last second, a Lightning Strike hits the Pokeball and destroys it, and Zapdos is free. Too bad, Go. You were super close to getting a legendary Pokemon. But as Zapdos is basically calling down lightning strikes on the roof, seemingly it seems like they're in a bit of a dangerous situation, and Pikachu ends up getting struck a couple of times. It looks like Pikachu got actually damaged pretty badly, but it turns out Pikachu's actually been recharged, and Pikachu is super happy about this. We see a bunch of other electric Pokemon gathering around the power plant. Looks like Zapdos over here was recharging its batteries and basically giving, all the other electric Pokemon a recharge. So, pretty nice scene. So, the episode pretty much comes to an end after this, so Go was unsuccessful, and by that point, Reboot and Flygon were too exhausted to continue. But I really like the fact that it looks like Zapdos actually acknowledged, Ash and Go as, competent trainers, so I'm wondering if Zapdos is going to return sometime in the future, and maybe next time Go actually captures this Pokemon. That would be interesting. He did a rather good job against Zapdos in this episode. But I like this part towards the end where Ash basically brings up the chicken and egg concept. But this time, using Ash logic, he's like, what comes first, a delicious meal or a bath? And of course, Go says, the meal. Goes over here like, really, Ash? But anyways, the episode comes to an end. Now, I gotta say, I actually really enjoyed this episode. It was a fairly good episode. I liked the battle that, Go had with Zapdos. I mean, Ash wasn't the main focus in the battle. He obviously didn't get any hits in, but it shows that Go has actually grown a lot as a character. He managed to actually, go up against a legendary Pokemon. Remember Go back in episode 7 when he basically got destroyed in that little tournament back in Hoenn. Yeah, look at Go now. Look at how much he's progressed so much. He's become a more competent battler. And he's getting a lot stronger as a trainer and as a person. It shows that Ash is rubbing off in a good way, and Koharu brings it up in this episode. So, good job there. Another thing I really liked in this episode was the pacing. One issue that I have with Journeys is that because the series is more episodic, the pacing tends to be kind of poor and rushed in a lot of moments. But in this episode, that's not the case. I felt that the pacing was fine in this episode. I thought it flowed very well throughout the episode. You went from the lab in the beginning, you're going to Vermilion City, and then you go to the power plant, and then, the conclusion there, and then, wrapping up towards the end. I thought it flowed very well. And everything, for the most part, made sense. So, yeah, I'd say this was a fairly good episode. Now, I do have a few slight issues I did have with this episode. Nothing big, but just a few slight issues. So, I wasn't too big on Team Rocket's involvement in this episode. Sure, it was kind of cool that they joined forces with Ash and Go to team up against Zapdos, and they seemingly were a good combination at first. But then, instead of, going for Zapdos, a legendary Pokemon, a powerful Pokemon, instead of pursuing it to the roof, they just stop in order to get Pikachu. And Pikachu was struggling against Zapdos. So they could have gotten this powerful legendary Pokemon for Giovanni, but instead they decided to focus on Pikachu. Just let that sink in for a second. I know I get this is Team Rocket and I get that that's their thing, but guys, there's a legendary Pokemon. Why aren't you trying to get that? I don't know, I thought that was kind of silly. In my opinion, they should have pursued Zapdos along with Ash and Go. And instead of having the generic Team Rocket moment where they try to capture Zapdos by force, we have a moment where Zapdos is using thunder or something like that, and Ash and Go step out of the way, and that's when Team Rocket get caught up in the blast and they get blasted off. I don't know, I think that would actually been a better way of doing this instead of what happened in the episode, but that's just me though. Additionally, I feel like Ash actually should have used Dragonite in this episode against Zapdos, and not just Pikachu. I mean, Go had Flygon and Reboot versus Zapdos. Wouldn't it make a little bit of sense to have Dragonite and Pikachu's riding on Dragonite as well, and they team up that way? I get that Go had a really good moment, battling against Zapdos, but considering that Dragonite hasn't gotten a whole lot of screen time lately, it would have been nice to see it participate in this battle or do something. Because, Ash, you got other Pokemon besides Pikachu and Riolu. You should use them a little bit more often. Just saying. Just use it here and there. I don't know, I miss those guys. I really want them to battle again in the near future. Alrighty, that's pretty much all I got for the review. So overall, a pretty good episode. I'm going to give this episode a solid 8 out of 10. So guys in the comment section down below, what'd you think of this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Post your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will talk to you all later. You all stay safe out there. Have a good day or night wherever you're at, and peace.